Hey kids, how you doing? This is Tony from Optimize Hardware. Been on a slight hiatus as of lately just due to the lack of video cards out on the market at the moment. I was out at my Micro Center today, that's in Parkville, Maryland, and I was able to pick up a 5070 card. It is the Ventus OC version. I paid $5.99 for it. They did have several varieties of the 5070 card. They had a couple 5070 Ti's and several 5080s. I can't say that this launch for NVIDIA was a good buy by any means. I just feel like the value to performance isn't great on the 50 series. And they've been riddled with problems, missing ROPs and burning up connectors again. But my goal here is to do a quick unboxing on this card, take a look at it. I am going to take it apart, look at the thermal paste, the thermal pad application. I will compare it to the 4070, the last generation card, and see what the improvement is. And we'll take a look at this card in the top down and see if MSI made a decent card and compare it, and do some light benches. So nothing wild on this video. So let's go to top down and check this thing out and see if this thing's a flop or not, which I don't know. With this launch, I don't have a whole lot of confidence, but let's check it out. Okay, boys and girls, let's take a look at this heaping pile of NVIDIA stuff. So yeah, on our box, it's wrapped in plastic, and I didn't buy it in a parking lot, so I didn't get ripped off. I did get it from my local Micro Center, so that is nice. Get this plastic off of here. Like I said, this is the OC Ventus edition. If you're lucky enough, you will get this card for $599 is what it retails for. And honestly, being at least one of the OC models that is reasonably priced in comparison, it may be a decent value. So the boxing here, take the essentials. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean, but yeah, take the essentials. Okay. Sure, NVIDIA. So yeah, you got a little piece of plastic here, and over my card, you get your horrifying connector, which we will not be using because we're using a decent power supply. So you've got this dreadful thing here. Not a huge fan of. It's horrible. So it's your typical 2-prong 12-volt high power, and it's got some warning and instructions. And I think my light's a little bright, guys. So I'm gonna. Oh, that's too dark. Too dark. Sorry, guys. Let me adjust my lighting here. Okay. I bumped my camera. Things are going haywire. It's because it's NVIDIA. NVIDIA is trouble. I don't like that. I don't like that light, fellas. How are we gonna figure out? Yeah. All right, a little better. Apologies. All right, so you get this horrible thing that means nothing. You get the card itself. You get this little MSI quick start setup and your card. I don't know what they're going to tell you here. Plug it into your computer and good luck. Hope it doesn't catch on fire, I guess, what these instructions are going to say. That's what I would write if I was NVIDIA. Like, plug it in and run. Hopefully you don't die. So, yeah. So nothing important there. Pop open this bag. Feels like a plastic backplate on this model. You got a fair amount of peel. So all you people who love all that peel stuff, get ready. It's coming. Yeah. So it's rather basic card, just like the previous Ventus. It's got a little more weight to it. Fans feel decent. Let's get all this plastic off of it. It's a 2-slot card. 3 display port, 1 HDMI, pretty standard. Lots of plastic all over this thing, which I'm not a huge fan of. This card, I believe, does not have any RGB lighting, which I'm fine with. I will be vertically mounting this card and the system I'm planning on putting it in. This plastic on these cards, a little annoying. So yeah, actually, that is an aluminum backplate. I'll see if there's any thermal pads under here. I definitely want to find out. Looks pretty good. The fin stack looks okay. I don't see anything that looks scary, like damage or anything. So far, so good. It doesn't look hateful. So I'm gonna grab some tools and I'm gonna tear this thing apart. So give me 2 seconds. Okay, guys, so I have my light adjusted a little better. Sorry it was so bright. I just have this one overhead light that's really goofy. It was projecting some shadows. So I know this might be terrifying to some of you new graphics card owners, but I am going to rip this card right apart and see what's going on with it. So if we break it together here on camera, great. Here's your warranty sticker, void if removed. Well, there it went. But that shouldn't be a thing. The right to repair should be there. So I do recommend just loosening these in a cross pattern for the first time. I'm sure it's going to be fine. So that one's loose. That one's loose. That one's loose. And that one's freed up. And we're learning this together. So this bit here needs a smaller Phillips. So I'm going to grab one really quick. Pull this bad boy apart. I'm very curious to see what this cooler looks like. Sorry if it's a little loud with my screwdriver. I can't tell. I've often found that checking the thermal paste on these cards are a really good idea. There's usually a fair amount of headroom to gain with decent thermal paste because I don't know what they put on these cards. My Asus card definitely needed some thermal paste right out of the box with my 40 series, with my 4090. It was a big improvement. So and I'm just setting these screws down randomly and I'm figuring out this card with you. Okay, so there's that. And that. And then these four go out in the middle. Oh, interesting. Okay, so there's a backplate. And what a waste of space. So no thermal pads on the back of this backplate. That seems like a really wasted opportunity. It's a decent lightweight aluminum plate. It would have helped out with thermal. So slightly disappointing. Is what it is. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen already the new design for this spring plate, which seems a little heavier, a little more heavy duty. I do like that it's black anodized, so that's rather nice. So this is going to go right in the middle. It looks like all these outlying screws are all the same size for the back plate, so that's kind of cool. That's not a big deal. And then pulling this apart already. Yeah, it looks like this just comes right apart, so that's not bad at all. You've got your fan connector. So the fans are serviceable separate from the cooler, which I do admire that, and it is a rather small card the more I look at this thing. Now let's see if we can get this connector out without breaking it. And it's already coming. I think people get really intimidated by uh, working on a graphics card, but that's it. That's the fan assembly. So it is separately serviceable, which is kind of nice. I do like that you can just take the fans off. And then we have the card itself. It does look like you will have to remove the this portion of the plate. And the cooler design, okay. Not hateful. Nothing looks tore up in manufacturing. Everything looks pretty decent. I'm gonna take off this panel here. So I need a bigger screwdriver. Doesn't like that. And I kind of need to put a hand on it anyway. There you go. These are typically all the same size. There we go. That's a part. This does not appear, because I did want to check if this is like a thermal putty card or a thermal paste card, and it looks like it's paste. And this is usually the scariest part, is pulling the card apart off of the cooler. There it goes. Hey, that was that. That was pretty easy. And yeah, I'm really glad that I decided to tear this down for the paste. So, because it looks awful. So here's the cooler. Honestly, it's tough to see, but it's pretty nicely designed cooler. But you can see the contact patch here, which I know I'm a little hard to focus, guys. I apologize. Is decent. On this side, on the cooler, it looks okay. But on the card side, on the actual PCB, the coverage is, let's see if my focus will kick in. I apologize. Yeah, a little subpar. So not the best coverage there. So I'm glad I pulled this. Um, it's definitely not the best coverage I've seen. So sorry, I had to adjust my focus there. So I am gonna clean this up and reapply paste. I mean, what's nice about this for water cooling, it's a really small PCB. So, you can see the caps, everything else, it's not hateful. Seen better, seen worse. Pads look okay. They're tacky. The thermal pads look decent. But yeah, I'm gonna put on some decent thermal paste because I think this stuff sucks. So let me get this die cleaned up really quick. Take me 2 seconds. Be right back. I'm gonna clean this die with some alcohol, some 99% alcohol, and reapply some thermal paste on this. Guys, here's a look at the GB205 300A1 die. I will say, after cleaning this thermal paste, this was possibly the worst thermal paste I've ever seen on a card. It was dry as a bone for a brand new card, so pretty disappointing. Here's the PCB in general, but dude, this stuff I had to scratch off like a lottery ticket. And I think the thermals would have been quite terrible. So I'm going to replace it with some decent thermal paste. I'm going to get onto that right now and show you how I apply thermal paste to a card. So yeah, I went to go clean off this cooler as well, which this appears to have a vapor chamber on this. I might be wrong, but it sure looks like a vapor chamber. So it makes no sense. You make a really decent cooler, and the paste that I cleaned off of this came off in giant chunks. Like it was abysmal. Definitely not impressed with the thermal paste that they used in this application. So MSI, come on, dude. If you're gonna make like a card, at least try a little bit. Um, and do something decent there because that sucked. That was not great. Super disappointed in that. So I'm gonna apply some decent thermal paste, some Kingpin KPX. Okay, so I got my spreader. Apologies for the slight delay. But honestly, with a lot of my clients, a lot of them are getting water cool builds, so they're automatically having their cards torn down and repasted. But I do get requests, and I often recommend them like, hey, if you want, I can, put decent paste on your card from the get. And a lot of people will opt to do so. And I think it's a really good idea because you will see pretty good thermal gains off of running like a decent thermal paste. If you're someone that like, tinkers with a lot of your stuff, like on my cards, I use the pink stuff. I use Thermal Grizzly, Cryonaut Extreme, or I use KPX. Typically on graphics cards, I like to use this. And on my CPUs, I like to use the pink stuff. And this is more than enough paste. I go a little bit heavy and cake it on, but you can have too much, but if you got not enough, that's bad news. So this is not thermally conductive, and I know the paste that they had on there was not for sure. So now we have a fresh thermal paste application with decent thermal paste. Sorry, I can't talk. And I think we'll have a much better thermal result. And I did not even start this card up, fire it up, and see if it works. If it's broke, it's broke, and I don't care. But that's the risk you take for performance. So I'm going to throw this card back together and switch up a little bit here and try to get this card put back together. So one thing I do kind of appreciate about this new series card, which I just realized while I was working on it, is that when you're um putting the PCB back down on the cooler, it's kind of cut out for the cooler, so it just falls in place where some of the older cards it would kind of slip and slide around, which I thought was cool that it just kind of popped on. So I like to start these the same way I took them off, just get a couple threads started because these are spring loaded, and slowly go side to side so you prevent any chance of like cracking a die or anything like that. I've never had that happen, but I remember way back in the day watching people take a car part cards, and they were like, just take your time and do it step by step. So it's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm going in a cross torque pattern as such, and just kind of walk them down until they're tight. Now, look, I've taken a lot of cards apart, so I don't recommend using any kind of power tools. This thing has insanely low torque, barely Newton meters when it does go tight at all. So, but I also do want good cooling and this thing to be snug. So pretty tight. Just as soon as it stops, that's fine. That's it. So that's all snug back up. The PCB is back together. Now I just need to throw the fans back on the top plate, and I'm going to get that together really quick. It shouldn't be too difficult. And from what I remember, I can just take the top plate came off first. My fan switch is here. So you'll just pop this back in. And now we should have much better cooling performance, which I'm happy about. And just, take your time, be gentle. That's all you have to do with cards, and they're not very difficult to work with. So if you haven't played with taking GPUs apart, don't be scared. It's not that hard. Everything just kind of lines up and works. Check for clearance. Everything looks good. At this point, it's just wanting the top plate back on. It's very basic and rudimentary. I was looking here at some of the PCBs. It's got some odd marks on it and whatnot, like flux. You can see stains there, but overall looks okay. And everything kind of, should just line up for you. It's not too crazy difficult. And like I said, fortunately, it looks like all of these sizes are the same. So, oops, I'm trying to scratch my card, this card up here. Oh, smaller bit. Load up. So I like to just get them started. And even though they are all the same size, I'm going to put them back in their home just in case. They all do have a little bit of blue Loctite on them, I noticed. But I'm just going to go exactly the way it came apart. Typically on more complicated cards back in the day, I would make a little roadmap and kind of put everything back together. These days, it seems like cards are a lot more uniform to take apart. I noticed like the last 40 series tough cards were super, super easy to pull apart and put back together. But I don't go all the way tight. I take my time and just get all threads started. And once I'm on my last one, everything looks okay here. So I'm going to go snug. Come on, baby. There we go. Like I said, a real, kind of disappointing that the backplate doesn't really do much for the card. I mean, it does have a lot of pass through, which is good for airflow. I mean, I do like that that fan is, you know, blowing right through that section. But right there, you've taken apart a GPU and put one back together and put new thermal paste on it. All the pads were fine. They actually used look like decent thermal pads. And this is that new PCIe, you know, setup, which is a little different looking than typical. But you know, I do have a Gen 5 board, but yeah, I'm not going to use it on this time around. I have a Z690. I'm going to pop it in. I don't think the performance gain is going to be too much. So for now, I'm going to throw this thing in a PC and look at some of the results from card to card. Kind of go from there. I've got to throw the this plate back on. But other than that, I am finished up with this card, and that is a teardown of a 5070. So let's get into a PC and see what it'll do. The MSI 5070 Ventus OC. What can we say? It's a graphics card. It plays video games. It does things. I didn't have any problems with it. No crashing, no black screens, and all the ROPs were there. So that's a good thing. It didn't catch on fire with that 12-volt high power connector, and I did not use their adapter, but that's also a good sign. It's overpriced. It's only a 12 gig card, but it did perform rather well. It did beat up its older brother, the 4070, and, you know, did it by a large margin. So that's good. Performance was decent for what it is. It should just be much, much cheaper. I'd like to thank Micro Center for an excellent shopping experience. Those guys are always fun to hang out with and talk about computers with, so that's cool. If you have one near you, please go check one out and you'll love them. I'm not sponsored by them, just saying they do a great job, and it's one of the best places you can buy PC components in America. So awesome store. Also like to say, please come check out our Facebook group, Custom PC Builders. Lots of cool people there. They'll help you with problems you're having. You can share your builds and talk about PC gaming, custom building, water cooling, whatever, overclocking. We'd love to have you along. And I will see you guys on the next one.